Reddit. What's the scariest thing or situation you've ever experienced? I mean, like creepy horror movie type scared, not, oh my god, I was almost hit by a car scared. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Some friends and I had been drinking at a river by my house and we were rowdy. We were in the car, hanging out with the lights on, when we saw a movement and a flash of light about half a mile away where the road curves. Curious, my friend, the only sober one, the driver, flashed her lights. We saw some movement again and curiosity got the better of us. We egged her to go around the dark corner so we could see what was happening. Mind you, this is by some mountains. We were at the beginning of the road that leads windy roads to various places of this mountain pass. We started driving very slowly as it was dark as ever. We could only really see right in front of us. As we get to the turn, we all craned our necks to the right, where the movement had been spotted. There's a deep drop off the side that goes down to the river, so we assumed whatever it was had gone down. As we were paying attention to the side of us, suddenly, a crazed, dirty, and bloody man stepped in the path of the car, wielding a tree trunk. I effing kid you not his size. It's raised above him, and his mouth was foaming. His eyes were wide and crazy. It was like seeing a zombie. We all freaked the F out as he slammed the trunk down. The driver, being of a quick thinking mentality at the time, swerved just barely, and the trunk slammed into the back of her car, creating a huge crater. She pushed on the gas and we sped the F out of there. Basically, attacked in the middle of nowhere land, in the dark, by a zombie, or possibly, and more likely, total drugged out crazy bum. I was standing in a cemetery at 3 a.m. one night with my friends. All of them were in the car getting ready to go, putting on seatbelts, etc. I was walking toward the car by myself. My arm was grabbed very violently from behind. I didn't even look back. I just ran to the car and got the hell out of there. Was on holiday with my family in a caravan park in Wales. One day it was terrible weather and I had to go into town with my mom to get some shopping. On the way back, we had to walk about a mile through the woods to get back to the caravan park. When we left, we passed a car parked on the road in the woods and the man was in his car again. He drove past us and pulled over, went to his boot and pulled out an axe. My mom took the shopping bags from me and told me if anything happened, run to get to my dad. I knew she was scared about this guy too. So, the guy's just standing at his car with an axe and then someone walks out from the woods in a bright yellow raincoat with the hood up, holding an old basket and starts picking berries from a bush. The guy with the axe got into his car and drove away. Not much happened, but we both felt like we were in danger at that moment. We saw the guy grab the axe. Just felt like the raincoat guy spooked the axe guy. I've been staying home taking care of my 6-month-old son all week. During the day, I'll lay him in his crib for a few minutes to run to the bathroom or to the kitchen for something to eat. Anywho, any time I lay him down, he starts yelling. Okay, this is normal. I'll reassure him that I'm not leaving him for long and leave the room to do what I've got to do. Every time, within seconds, he'll start laughing and I start hearing a man and a woman playing with him, talking to him through the baby monitor. Sometimes I'll call out just to make sure we're alone and that nobody else is in the house. When I do, the voices stop and he starts crying again. It has happened every single time I've left him alone for a few minutes this week. The voices don't seem angry or anything, but it scares me a bit regardless and has also caused me to question my hearing and my sanity. In basic training, someone had to guard the door to the dormitory area at all times, always 2 at a time, even at night. We'd all heard the rumors from trainees who'd been there longer about the squadrons being haunted by little shadow people, but we didn't really listen to them, since in our minds we were on our way to becoming cold-hearted killers and whatnot, and we assumed they were joking with us. One night, it was my turn as entry controller. Every so often, we had to walk around the sleeping area with flashlights to make sure everything was in order. So I'm walking down the aisle in the middle of the bay when suddenly something catches my eye. Something was moving at the very back by the lockers, something small and human looking. I played my beam around, thinking it was one of my flight mates playing a prank on me. What I saw, I really don't know, but it made the hair stand on end. They looked like the shadows of kids or something, but they were moving, running around. They had heads and arms and legs, but indistinct hands and feet and no faces. Still, I could tell that both of them had turned their heads and were looking at me. It was just for a second, but I hauled ass back to the door and never looked back. 2 or 3 years ago, my mother decided to put brand new carpets in our upstairs. Now, I come from a very large family, so our upstairs is basically just a long hallway with 7 bedrooms. To simplify the carpet installation, we decided to just move everything over to one side of the house, put in new carpet, and then move everything over and do the other side. I think the whole thing took about 3 days. So me and 3 of my sisters had to share a bedroom for a few nights. So there I was laying on the floor with one sister while the other 2 shared the bed. Anyway, there we were about to go to sleep when my littlest sister asks if we can keep the hallway light on and the bedroom door open. We oblige, and slowly everyone starts to drift off. Now, they say that ghosts and spirits don't like it when you rearrange your furniture, something about how it confuses them and causes them to be a little more active. Well, something didn't like it that night either. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and moving my head over towards the light coming in from the hallway. Standing there, silhouetted in the doorframe, was a man staring at us. I couldn't really see anything specific because I instantly dropped my head in disbelief and started telling myself to go to sleep. Just go to sleep. The things I do remember was that he was leaning forward at an uncomfortable angle and that he wasn't directly staring at me, more so gazing at the bed between the 4 of us. Well, I laid there for what seemed like forever until I finally fell asleep. The next morning, my sisters had woken before me and I told them the story. That night, we were all a bit uneasy, but nothing else happened. Many years ago, when I was a young boy, 12, I got up to pee in the night. As I was peeing, my eyes wandered up to look out the window in front of me. I looked out across the darkness of the night to the lamppost that illuminated the bottom of my parents' garden. There I saw it, a figure, dark and menacing, shuffling in the darkness. I fled from the bathroom back into my room and slept, passing it off as a bad dream. The true horror came in the morning. Large, fresh, human boot prints pressed into the mud where the figure stood. It was real. Waking up at 5 a.m. in my basement room to a chick standing at the end of my bed watching me sleep. She was just staring at me. I honestly thought I was dreaming, but nope. And then I thought it was a friend playing a joke because I'm blind without my glasses. Also, nope. I don't know where she came from, what her name was, but as soon as I said, hello, she ran up the stairs and out of the house. Never saw her again and was afraid to sleep in my room for a while. I should add, she walked through one end of the house to the other to go into my room, also stepping over my sleeping brother and dog who were in the living room. I find it odd she ended up in my room and also completely weirded out because I don't know how long she was there. After a long night of drinking, I get a train home. The closest train station to my house is about a 20 to 30 minute walk, so I start walking. Now, this walk takes me past the cemetery, which is close to my old school. There's a long, wide, tree-lined path that runs through the middle of the cemetery, and on either side of the path, there are these little shelters for people to sit. People regularly use the path, and it's actually a really nice walk, especially on a sunny day. I had fond memories of walking through that cemetery, despite a run-in I had with an angry, snarling hobo once, but that wasn't too bad. Anyway, in my drunkenness, I decided to take the shortcut through the cemetery for a bit of nostalgia. I fully realized the kind of horror movie scenario I was setting myself up for, walking through a cemetery at 4 a.m., but F it. I thought, what's the worst that could happen? Plus, it's such a nice walk. I get to where the path begins, look down it, and see absolutely nothing, pitch blackness. As I'm walking, I become very self-conscious of how loud my footsteps are, and I can't help but think that if there's somebody else in the cemetery, they'll hear me coming a mile off. I also can't help but think that whoever that person is hanging out in a cemetery in the middle of the night isn't the kind of person I'd really want to announce my presence to. But no matter how much I try, I can't seem to make no noise when I walk. I'm walking over branches and leaves and everything else is just so silent, so still. And I begin to think that maybe I've made a huge mistake coming in here. Keep in mind that I can't even see any of the gravestones, it's so dark. All I can see are the lights at the very end of the path, still a couple 100 meters away, and the ground at my feet as I walk. It's so incredibly dark, which is something I really didn't foresee as a problem when I drunkenly came in here. Anyway, my heart is pounding in my chest. I keep thinking I see things, weird shadows in the distance, My mind is playing tricks on me. I just put my head down and walk. I'm close to the end now, and I'm walking very quickly, and I think to myself, if I look up right now, I'm going to see something. I'm going to see someone or something, and it's going to be really effing weird. And I just know it's going to happen. So what do? I look up. In front of me is nothing. I'm only about 20 meters from the end of the path, so I can see the street and light, and it looks good. Then I look to my right. One of the little sheltered seating areas I mentioned earlier. Just beyond the shelter are two men with their backs turned. One of them is kneeling with his hand on the ground, like he's inspecting something. The other is standing in front of the kneeling man. Neither of them are moving a muscle. I was in mid-stride when I saw them, and now I'm completely still. I know they must have heard me walking because, like I said, my footsteps were loud as shit. Then, the standing man turns to face me. I can't see his face or even what kind of clothes he's wearing. He's just a shadowy silhouette, but I can feel that there's something not normal going on. That if these were two dudes hanging around in a cemetery, they wouldn't be acting so weird. They wouldn't just be standing there staring at me. At this point, my body catches up with my brain and I just run. I just run and run until I can't run anymore. I don't know if what happened was in any way supernatural or if they were just two dudes in a cemetery at 4 a.m. or what, but at the time, it was effing terrifying. One of those situations where you think to yourself, you know, if I was in a horror movie right now, I would see something really weird. And then a moment later, you actually do see something. This happened last week. I was with my friends and we had to pick up one more person. We pull up and I hop in the back seat so the other person can sit in front. We're parked waiting and then this girl just starts walking back and forth across the street. This girl was walking like a zombie. Her eyes were just blank and her face had no expression. She also just kept mumbling the entire time. We sit there waiting for about 10 minutes and this girl just keeps walking back and forth. I finally tell my friend to just go and knock so we can leave already. While I was telling my friend that the girl decided to not walk across the street anymore and just walk down the sidewalk. As soon as my friend gets out and walks up, the girl just slowly turns around, still no expression, and just starts walking towards the car I'm sitting in. I turn to my other friend in the car and tell him that I feel like she is just gonna stand next to the car window and stare at us, and if she does, I'm going to freak out. What does she do? She slowly keeps limping towards the car and stands right next to the car, mumbling and staring at us. I keep my head down and start playing a game on my phone. She then backs up and just sits on the grass and stares at us. My friend finally comes back and we make a U-turn and drive away, and as we pass that girl again, I looked at her and she just watched us drive away. It may not seem that creepy or scary, but at the moment, I felt like she was just going to start screaming and clawing at the car.